The sun hung low and merciless over Dusty Plains, Texas, in that sweltering afternoon of 1885, turning the dirt streets into a furnace that baked the soles of my boots right through to my skin. I could feel the sweat trickling down my back, soaking the faded blue dress that clung to me like a second layer of shame. My father, Harlan Hart, God rest his soul if he ever finds it, had his gnarled fingers wrapped around my arm, dragging me toward the town square, like I was no more than a stubborn mule headed for auction. The crowd had already gathered, a motley bunch of ranchers, shopkeepers, and their sharp-tongued wives, all buzzing with the kind of excitement that feeds on someone else's misery. "Step right up, folks," my father bellowed, his voice rough from too many nights with a bottle. "Got me a fine young woman here, Eliza Hart, 23 years strong. She's got hands for cookin' and cleanin', a back that don't break easy. But she's barren as the desert. Tried for years with her no-good husband, and nothing came of it. Who'll take her off my hands? Start the biddin' at $5. The words hit me like a slap, but I bit down on my tongue, tasting blood. Barren. That ugly word had haunted me since my marriage to Tom fell apart 2 years back. We tried, Lord knows we did, but month after month, nothing. Tom called me cursed, said I was no real woman, and one day he just up and left, taking what little dignity I had with him. Now here I was, paraded like livestock in the heart of Dusty Plains, where everyone knew everyone's secrets and reveled in them. The crowd erupted in laughter, harsh and mocking, like coyotes yipping at a wounded deer. "Barren? Hell, Harlan, you might as well sell her for dog meat," shouted old man Whitaker from the general store, his belly shaking with glee. A few women clucked their tongues, but their eyes gleamed with that petty satisfaction, the kind that comes from seeing someone fall lower than you. I scanned the faces, searching for any shred of pity, but all I found was judgment. And then, from the edge of the throng, a burly drunk named Silas Crow staggered forward, his eyes bloodshot and hungry. "Well, if she's barren, maybe she won't mind a little fun without the consequences," Silas slurred, lunging toward me with outstretched hands. His breath reeked of whiskey and rot, and for a heartbeat, panic clawed at my throat. I twisted away, but my father's grip held firm, and Silas's fingers grazed my skirt. The crowd hooted, some cheering him on, others just watching like it was a damn sideshow. My heart pounded like a war drum. Fear, rage, humiliation, all twisting into a knot that made me want to scream. But I didn't. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. I stood tall, chin up, even as tears burned behind my eyes. This was my life now, sold off like a faulty plow. That's when he appeared. From the shadows of the saloon porch, a tall figure stepped into the sunlight, his boots kicking up dust with each deliberate stride. Jack Harlan, no relation to my sorry kin, thank heavens, was a man who looked like he'd been carved from the rugged hills themselves. Broad shoulders under a worn leather vest, a jaw set like granite, and eyes the color of storm clouds rolling in from the west. His face was weathered, lines etched deep from years under the Texas sun, but he wasn't old. Not yet 40, I'd guess. He moved with the quiet confidence of a cowboy who'd stared down death more times than he could count. His gun belt slung low on his hips. Without a word, Jack pulled a pouch from his pocket and tossed a handful of coins at my father's feet. "That's $10. She's comin' with me." The square fell silent, save for the jingle of silver hitting dirt. My father blinked, squinting up at Jack like he'd seen a ghost. "You sure about this, Harlan?" "She ain't worth the trouble. No refunds, mind you." Jack didn't flinch. His gaze flicked to me for the briefest moment, not with pity or lust, but something steadier, almost like recognition. "I said she's comin' with me." He reached out, his hand rough but gentle as he took my elbow, steering me away from my father without another glance. Whispers rippled through the crowd. "Jack Harlan? The widower with them wild kids? What's he want with a barren gal?" I heard Mrs. Evelyn Tate hiss to her gossiping friends, her voice dripping with venom. Evelyn was the town busybody, always stirring pots she had no business in, her husband the banker who lorded over half the loans in Dusty Plains. But Jack ignored them all, leading me to his horse tethered at the edge of the square, a sturdy bay mare that snorted softly as we approached. He hoisted me up onto the saddle with ease, then swung up behind me. His body was warm against my back, solid as an oak, and for the first time that day I felt a flicker of something besides despair. Safety? Hope? I didn't know yet. As we rode out of town, the wind whipped dust around us, carrying the echoes of the crowd's jeers like ghosts nipping at our heels. I glanced back once, just in time to see my mother, poor broken Ma, standing at the fringe of the mob. Her eyes were red-rimmed, tears streaking her weathered cheeks, but she didn't call out, didn't fight for me. She just turned and melted into the crowd, leaving me with a hollow ache that cut deeper than any knife. Who was this man? Why me? Questions swirled in my mind as the town faded behind us, the endless Texas plains stretching out like a sea of golden grass under the fading sun. Jack didn't speak, his arms steady around me as he guided the horse. I stole glances at him, his skin tanned to leather, scars crisscrossing his knuckles like maps of hard-fought battles. No wedding ring on his finger, but the faint indentation where one might have been told a story of loss. The air smelled of sage and horse sweat, and beneath it all, a faint whiff of pine from his shirt. Like he'd been chopping wood that morning. We rode for what felt like hours, the silence between us thick, but not uncomfortable. Finally, as the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Why? My voice came out hoarse, barely above a whisper. Why'd you buy me? Jack shifted slightly, his breath warm against my ear. Got 5 kids at home. Lost their Mata fever 2 winters back. Need someone who ain't cruel. That's all. His words hung there, simple as a fence post, but they stirred something deep inside me. Kids? A widower? I pictured them, little faces peering out from a lonely ranch house, eyes wide with the same grief I'd seen in my own mirror. Not a wife then, not a lover, just a caretaker. But even that felt like a lifeline in the drowning sea of my life. The ranch came into view as dusk settled, a humble spread nestled against a low ridge. The house a weathered wooden structure that leaned just a bit, like it was weary from standing against the winds. Smoke curled from the chimney, and I could hear the faint cluck of chickens scratching in the yard. Jack helped me down, his hands lingering a moment longer than necessary on my waist, sending an unexpected shiver through me. Was it fear? Or something warmer forbidden? Inside, the air was thick with the scent of beans simmering on the stove and the earthy tang of unwashed linens. 5 pairs of eyes turned toward us, 4 boys and 1 girl, ranging from maybe 5 to 12. The oldest, Caleb, stood tall with crossed arms, his gaze wary like a young wolf. Noah, the next, fidgeted with a wooden toy, his cheeks smudged with dirt. Elijah and Tommy clustered together, wide-eyed, while little Sophie clung to Caleb's leg, her thumb in her mouth. "Kids," Jack said gruffly, hanging his hat on a peg. "This here's Eliza. She's stayin' with us a while?" The children stared, silent as stones. I knelt down, trying to smile through the knot in my throat. "Hello there. I'm glad to meet y'all." Sophie peeked out, her big blue eyes, so like what I imagined her mother's must have been, full of curiosity and caution. Tommy clutched a ragged stuffed bear, its button eyes hanging loose, and I felt a pang in my chest. These weren't just kids. They were orphans in their own home, carrying wounds that mirrored my own. Jack showed me to a small room at the back, barely big enough for a narrow bed and a washstand. The window overlooked the dry grasslands, where the wind whispered secrets to the stars emerging overhead. "Water's in the bucket," he muttered. "Holler if you need something." Then he was gone, leaving me alone with my thoughts. That night, as I lay on the lumpy mattress, the house creaked around me like an old friend settling in. I heard the children murmuring in their rooms, soft whispers, a stifled sob from Sophie. My mind raced back to the square, to Silas's grabby hands, to my mother's retreating back. Why had Jack chosen me? Was it pity? Or did he see something in me that even I couldn't? The thought warmed me unexpectedly, a spark in the cold ashes of my heart. For the first time in years, I dared to wonder if this stranger might be the key to mending what was broken inside me. Morning came with the crow of a rooster and the sizzle of bacon on the griddle. Jack's doing, I guessed. I rose early, determined to prove my worth, but my hands, still trembling from yesterday's ordeal, fumbled everything. The bread burned to a crisp in the oven, filling the kitchen with acrid smoke. Coffee sloshed over the pot's rim, scalding my fingers. The kids watched from the table, their faces a mix of amusement and skepticism. "Sorry," I mumbled, cheeks flaming as I scraped the charred loaf into the scrap bucket. Jack glanced up from his plate, his expression unreadable. "Ain't no harm done." He stood quietly sweeping up the mess without a word of reproach. His kindness stung more than anger would have, reminding me of all the times Tom had yelled, called me useless. Here was a man who didn't lash out, and it unnerved me, stirring feelings I wasn't ready to name. As the day wore on, I threw myself into chores, scrubbing floors, mending socks, anything to keep busy. The kids warmed slowly. Noah showed me his collection of smooth river stones, each one magic in his eyes. Sophie trailed me like a shadow, her small hand slipping into mine as I hung laundry on the line. "You sing pretty," she whispered when I hummed an old lullaby Ma used to croon, but it was Tommy who broke through first. The littlest one, with his mop of curly hair and freckles, toddled over with his bear. "Fix?" he asked, holding up the toy's dangling arm. I sat on the porch steps, needle in hand, stitching the fabric back together. As I worked, Tommy climbed into my lap, his head resting against my shoulder. The weight of him, so trusting and warm, cracked something open in me, a flood of longing for the child I'd never born. Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them away, focusing on the thread. That evening, as the sun set in a blaze of crimson, Jack found me there. "You're good with 'em," he said, leaning against the rail. His voice was low, rough around the edges like sandpaper. I looked up, meeting his gaze. Those storm cloud eyes held depths I wanted to explore. Pain, yes, but also a quiet strength that drew me in. "They just need love," I replied softly. "We all do." He nodded, a ghost of a smile tugging at his lips. For a moment, the air between us hummed with unspoken possibilities. Was this the start of something, or just a fragile truce in a harsh world? I didn't know, but as the stars wheeled overhead, I felt a pull toward this man, this family, that scared and thrilled me in equal measure. The next few days blurred into a rhythm of hard work and small victories. I learned the lay of the land, the well that ran low in summer, the barn where Jack spent hours tending horses. He was a man of few words, but his actions spoke volumes, fixing a loose board on the porch without being asked, leaving wildflowers on the kitchen table one morning. Were they for me? The thought sent butterflies fluttering in my stomach, a sensation I'd forgotten after Tom. One afternoon, while the kids napped, I ventured into town alone for supplies. Dusty Plains hadn't changed, same dusty streets, same prying eyes. Evelyn Tate cornered me at the mercantile, her lips curled in a sneer. "Heard Jack Harlan snatched you up like a stray." "Pity, really. A man like him deserves better than a barren husk." Her words sliced deep, reopening old wounds. I wanted to retort, to tell her where she could stick her opinions, but I held my tongue, paying for the flour and hurrying out. On the ride back, tears streamed down my face, mixing with the dust. Was I fooling myself? Could I ever be enough for Jack, for his kids? That night Sophie woke screaming from a fever dream. I rushed to her side, brewing willow bark tea and sponging her forehead with cool cloths. Jack hovered in the doorway, his face etched with worry. The same helpless look he'd worn when his wife died, I imagined. "She's burning up," he whispered, voice cracking. I worked through the hours, singing softly to calm her, my hands steady despite my exhaustion. As dawn broke, Sophie's fever broke too, her breathing easing into peaceful sleep. Jack stepped closer, his hand brushing mine. "Thank you, Eliza." His touch lingered, warm and electric, sending a jolt through me. In that moment, looking into his eyes, I saw not just gratitude but a spark of something deeper. Desire? Affection? It terrified me. Because if I let myself feel it, what if it shattered like everything else? He left a note by my bedside later. "Obliged." Simple, but it warmed me like brandy on a cold night. As I drifted to sleep, I dreamed of his arms around me, strong and sure, chasing away the shadows of my past. Weeks turned into a tentative routine. I taught the boys their letters by the fireside, Caleb's serious frown giving way to proud grins when he spelled his name. Noah confessed his fibs to me, trusting I'd understand without judgment. Elijah shared stories of his ma, his voice small but steady, and I held him close, my heart aching for the motherless boy and for the mother I could never be. One stormy evening, thunder rumbling like cannon fire, Caleb bolted into my room, trembling. "Hate the booms," he admitted, burrowing under the quilt. I wrapped my arms around him, humming until the storm passed. Jack watched from the hall, his expression soft in the lantern light. "You're a natural," he said later over coffee. "Didn't expect that." "Neither did I confessed, my cheeks heating. Our eyes locked, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to just us. The crackle of the fire, the rain pattering on the roof, the unspoken pull drawing us closer. He reached across the table, his fingers grazing mine, and I didn't pull away. The touch was innocent, but it ignited a fire in my veins, a yearning for more than survival. For love, real and raw. But shadows loomed. Whispers from town reached us, Evelyn spreading tales that I was bewitching Jack, that a barren woman like me would bring ruin. And then there was Hank Riley, the drunken cowboy who'd eyed me at the auction. He started hanging around the ranch edges, his leers making my skin crawl. One day he cornered me by the well, his breath hot on my neck. "Jack can't watch you forever, sweetheart." Fear gripped me, but I shoved him back, grabbing a bucket as a weapon. "Get off our land!"